Large home improvement retailers like Home Depot and Lowe's are coming after B2B distributors, trying to actually cut them out entirely and go straight to the manufacturer. What should B2B distributors do to respond? Pleased to be joined by CTO, Managing Partner at Applico, Tran. Tree, great to have you with us.
Pleasure to be here.
So Tree, you've been leading the charge in all things that Applico's been doing in building materials distribution space, which spans a pretty wide gamut. And you've been ringing the alarm for some time now on Home Depot and Lowe's, probably most notably Home Depot. Why is that?
This space, and I think particularly due to the pandemic, has really accelerated demand for residential, multifamily buildings and renovation, right? It's not just new starts, but also renovations, remodeling. There's huge demand for it. So then in particular with the Home Depot of the world and the Lowe's of the world, they recognize that, okay, we've been traditionally servicing the DIY type of consumers, right, as their historical performance. But they recognize now, hey, the contractors are truly the growing segment, right? They obviously have always served the contractors in some capacities, particularly Home Depot. But now, over the past couple of years, that segment, that consumer segment, had tremendously been growing. In fact, nearly half, 45+% of Home Depot sales are now via these pros and these contractors, and it's growing way faster.
Did I hear that correctly? You're saying nearly half of Home Depot's revenue is from pros?
Correct.
Wow.
That's what most people wouldn't realize, right? Most people think that's just a retail shop for you and I to go, buy some lightings or something. But yeah, that's not the case anymore. And they've been growing in that segment really fast in the last couple of years. So of course they recognize this, and they have been, releasing news about, hey, we're gonna commit to some huge investments. They released news that they're going to spend $1.2 billion over the next few years building out what they call flatbed distribution centers, 40 or so of these across the country, so that they can better serve these pros, these contractors, these business buyers whose orders are typically much larger. That's why they call it flatbed distribution center, because you need a flatbed truck to fulfill and deliver these products. A little pickup truck won't do. so yeah, I mean, that's the investment and going after it full bore.
Article here talking about exactly what you're saying. Contractors' needs are very different than the average customers. While they make up only 5% of Home Depot shoppers, they account for 45% of its $132 billion in sales. I mean, that's just a mind-blowing stat. On top of then the investments in the infrastructure that you're talking about. And then what about digital? What are they doing in kind of the digital arena to kind of couple with what these kind of more physical infrastructure investments they're making?
If you take a step back, Home Depot has been investing in digital for the consumers, right? They have really nice mobile app. You can go find any products and showing up really well, and you can even walk in the store. It even tells you, hey, this aisle number 8, section A is exactly where that product is. You can walk right there and it has it, right? And inventory update and all that as well. So they recognize the digital aspect of this is key. Now for the contractors, the needs, in my opinion, like even amplify that even 1,000-fold, because you're not going to have a contractor manually going to shop one product at a time, adding to a shopping cart, and that's just going to take all day, right? So they rely on digital tools to help with that process. So, they have announced recently a partnership that they're doing with Tran, which is a tool to help contractors manage their project, fitting out, hey, here are the products that I need for my project and automatically pipe that into the Home Depot product catalog so that they can, automatically say, yep, here are all the items I need. I want to buy them and I need to get them tomorrow or today or whatever the timing may be. So that's what has already been announced. And I imagine with all these new distribution capabilities, they have to also ramp up a lot more on that digital front. They got to help these contractors sink in whatever tools they got to help with planning, procurement, and maybe even tracking the project. How is it going? What else do you need to really help these contractors be more successful at what they do?
So they're enabling contractor tools. They're plugging in their, digital e-commerce capability with these different contractor tools. They're also juicing the wheels on credit and financing, increases to credit lines and net term financing terms with their contractor community. We have a separate video on that talking about B2B financing startups. Go check out that video if you want to learn about how to mimic that capability. And Tree, you've got a pretty, if true, a pretty earth-shattering prediction, and what would be, very bad for the rest of the B2B distribution industry as it relates to building materials. You say that there could be an interesting acquisition target for them. Who is that?
Well, yeah, the background here is, you can ask yourself which digital tools in this whole construction tech space that is making, waves, right? Who's making real traction? Who's making great progress here? And I think, what we've seen is the name Procore comes up all the time, not just because of their core offering, but they are positioning themselves as more of a software platform where a lot of the other tools can hook into it, starting from a project, conception phase to the design phase, creating a BIM, all the way to actually exporting a takeoff list of materials so that you can then procure those materials, then of course executing the project, tracking progress of the project. So they're really going end to end with the whole construction life cycle from conception to design to execution to post construction. So obviously they are making waves there. They IPO, last year, and their valuation kept going up
until the past few months. That's what's interesting too, is actually the past few months, in October it peaked around $105 a share. Now it's down to like $66, $67 a share.
Could be a sweet target. But I think, look, the construction space is still probably one of the slowest adoption of technology, right? Compared to, let's say, healthcare or some other vertical of B2B. So it is definitely a slower to catch up, but it would, I think, catch up much faster because of this pandemic environment, because of the demand, and because of all these additional fulfillment capabilities. Let's say Home Depot itself is expanding with. So now you got to match that with the tools to enable all these orders to come in, much more reliably and accurately.
Well, two things here. One, there's precedent for Home Depot, or honestly, it could be Lowe's. Lowe's did partner with Procore last summer. There is precedent here to go and buy a software SaaS company that's providing tools very deep into the construction lifecycle. That's Builders First Source, buying a company called Paradigm for about $450 million also last summer. Second point is that because of a Home Depot and a Lowe's size, a lot of these manufacturers circumvent the classical distribution channel and will sell directly to those retailers, right? So the manufacturers don't want this to happen. They like having some parity, even though that parity is in jeopardy. They like having their B2B channels, their B2B distribution channels, to be specific, as well as then, large retailers that they're selling direct to. But a manufacturer, just like a B2B distributor, doesn't want to see those scales be tipped in any direction too strongly, like what we're seeing a Home Depot do, which is just insane growth, 45% of sales here from this pro community.
What we've learned is manufacturers don't want any major outlet to become the dominating monopoly at like a Walmart. Right? They definitely want to avoid that kind of situation, because then they become truly crammed down themselves.
So Trey, what is a B2B distributor supposed to do if they're somewhere in this building materials world?
Most B2B distributors in this space are servicing the mid-size or the large contractors to date. That's been their sweet spot. But now you got, players like Lowe's and Home Depot's going up market. So what to do? And I think there are a few different angles they can look at investing in, right? Again, your contractors, consumers really well, your customers really well. Can you help them out, providing more tools for them, right? Instead of just being another supplier of products, your white glove service, any other tools you can provide for them to make it easier for them. And then obviously many of the distributors, you're part of larger groups, you're part of associations, you're part of other buying groups. Can you band together and provide a one-stop shop kind of solution to your customers so that they don't have to go to Home Depot to grab something randomly, and be that really sticky relationship that you need to create with your customer. So yeah, some of these are the things that I would have in my mind for them for a B2B distributor to look into.
If you're a B2B distributor, you have to go to where Home Depot and Lowe's are attacking, right? And those are going to be with your smaller contractor customers. Maybe they're not even customers today. Maybe they're customers that you have, but you don't really care about them. Those just became and should become some of your most coveted customers. How do you meet their needs with digital tools, as Tree is talking about, with complementary product offerings, other kinds of service offerings that you can provide them, like credit? Those smaller customers are more fragmented. The switching costs are lower for them to go and switch to a Home Depot Pro than your mid to large size contractor customers. Those are the buying behaviors that are going to be more influenced by digital first, right? As opposed to your mid to large size contractors. You have to go to those smaller contractor customers, which you might have ignored, but now you can't ignore them any longer, because if you do, that's going to be the beachhead that allows Home Depot and Lowe's to dominate in that sector. And then they're going to be able to pick off the juiciest fruit from your mid to large size customers. And then that's where it starts to become a real problem. But if you wait until that point, it's too late. Thanks for watching our video. If you want to learn about one of the hottest services and products being offered in building materials, it's credit. Go check out our recent video on B2B payments and net terms financing. 2022 is the year of instant credit approval.